South Dakota makes national waves for all the right reasons and all that is right about sports and college sports. It happened in this past week, and it's a part of today's South Dakota Sports Lounge. I'm your host, John Gaskins, from Happy Hour with John Gaskins, weekdays at SiouxFallsLive.com. This show, every week, presents to you some of the best conversations, the most compelling topics that we talked about and featured here in our Forum Communications family. Dom Izzo up in Fargo on his show Hot Mic talked to the foremost analyst in FCS football, Sam Herder, as we get closer, as in within 100 days of kickoff to the 2026 season, believe it or not. Out in Rapid City, Nate Brown brought in a sports authority from Indianapolis to talk about the Indiana 500, Caitlin Clark, and more. And Zach Borg with a feature on some of the best plays, teams, moments in South Dakota high school baseball this year as we ramp up to the South Dakota State Baseball Championships, which can be seen on Midwest Sports Plus, Class A on Friday and Saturday, Class B on Monday and Tuesday this upcoming Memorial Day weekend. But we lead off today's Sports Lounge with that national story out of USD. The Coyote softball team won the Summit League tournament for their first ever berth in any NCAA tournament, Division I or Division II, in the 48-year history of the program. And they didn't just squeak on into Lincoln and walk away weakly. They had number one Nebraska, the number one team in the nation, in their home stadium, down 1-0 in the fifth inning on Friday. Then on Saturday, they won their first ever NCAA tournament game, as in their first ever win in the event. They beat a team from a power conference, Louisville, from the ACC. And even yet, those two games were not what made all the news. It was with the Coyotes on the brink of elimination against the 21st ranked team in the country, Grand Canyon, in an elimination game on Saturday, down 2 runs, and a pinch hitter who rarely plays, Katie Hoffman, laced a liner to center field, brought in 2 runs to tie the game, which eventually forced extra innings. The Yotes lost the game, and that's how their season ended. And head coach Robert Wagner resigned, it felt abruptly, just a couple of days later. But for about 48 hours, the college softball world, including the GOAT, Jessica Mendoza, you may see her on ESPN all the time, marveling at this moment where Shannon Pivovar just simply tells Katie Hoffman she is proud of her. So we brought on Coach Piv, former University of Sioux Falls softball coach, and who knows, maybe the future USD head coach, now that the position is open, about that very moment.
I think what's crazy is I wasn't doing anything that I don't normally do. I'm not used to the TV cameras. I'm not used to that. Like, we're lucky that our games get streamed on the Summit League network when we play. But like the ESPN level, that was new to all of us too. So I simply was just through the roof ecstatic for Katie in that moment. And I knew all of the emotions that she had too, but like, darn it, I was so darn proud of her that she stepped up and figured out a way to tie that game. Like, that was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I mean, how much of the tweets or quote tweets or, I'm sure there's been stories written about it. Have you consumed and what have you made of what people are making of that moment?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. It's every time I turn my phone on, I have another red dot with a new number. And being type A, I don't like the red dot. So I have clicked on it and I've looked through stuff. But what I think is that that's how positive coaching should be. It should be celebrated and our athletes should get that moment. And I hope that like that's the message that's being taken, is that like in a game where failure is so high and there is such a demand and we want to win, and that competitive juice, like that's a real thing. We still need to celebrate the heck out of all of the little things that happen. And so that's what I hope that this, when people see this and they retweet it and repost it, that it reminds us that we need to celebrate those little things, because that's huge. Like, she did that. And I'm proud that people are seeing our story and they're getting it out there. But like all of that social media attention really comes back to the fact that Katie Hoffman did a job. And that's amazing to me.
It is. I mean, one particular take on this came from a guy named Tom Herzog. I retweeted it. It says, "This is what transformational programs do. The moment here was about far more than just a game. It was an expression of belief, confidence, and investment in a young person's future. Long after the final score is forgotten, moments like this remain. They shape identity, they build confidence, they remind someone they matter. And too many programs lost sight of what that this is all really about. South Dakota Coyotes softball clearly has not." You said this is you. I mean, I'd love to dive more into that. You've now been an assistant coach or a head coach in Division One or Division Two softball for over a decade now. You know, you've learned from your mentors. What are kind of the cornerstones of you, the way you coach, that kind of led to that?
Yeah, I think I was super lucky in college. I played for Jen Bagley Trotter, who's now the head coach at St. Thomas. And she just believed in us as people first. And that really has stuck with me my entire career is I want to know their stories off the field. I want to know how they're doing in classes. I want to know what they're looking forward to in their futures and their goals and all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, that's why I coach. 1,000% is because I believe that building people up and building those relationships and doing that is going to outweigh the wins and losses at the end of the day. Do I want to win? Yes. Am I super competitive? Absolutely. But going to weddings of players that I coached 10 years ago, getting text messages that they are pregnant and expecting, that stuff to me is so much more fulfilling than remembering a win 10 years ago. And that's just, I have grown a lot. My mom even told me this morning that that's just a sign of maturity, Shannon. I was like, thank you, Mom. But I just think that there was a point where I was stuck in the wins and losses, and both as a player and when I first got into coaching. And the relationships were always important, but that switch has flipped for me, and it's not even comparable anymore. Like the building the bonds and the strengthening the off the field, the culture, those kinds of things. Like that's just what I believe in way more than getting caught up in the wins and losses.
We are going to talk about the weekend
Right.
and your team. You added to the story, but Coach Wagner did a good job of telling the story of the team this year and the program he's built over the last decade on our show last week. So those who haven't found it yet, it's at Happy Hour with John Gaskins. It's at SiouxFallsLive.com. But continuing with you, you mentioned your mom, because I was going to say, well, where does this all come from? You've mentioned your college coach. You've mentioned your mom. Your father was a longtime sports writer for the Omaha World Herald. He rose to the top job you can have there in sports, covering both Nebraska football during happier days and Creighton basketball during Creighton basketball's always been really good, like the last 30 years. But he also covered the College World Series. Like he was the guy on that beat in Omaha's proudest sporting identity as a city. And he grew up not far from old Rosenblatt Stadium. He even wrote a book about Rosenblatt around the time it was demolished, and you lost him a few years ago. But what do you think he'd be thinking right now, and how much of a part of it was him as well? Everything that led to this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me and my brother and my sister, like we were just pretty much thrown into sports from the time that we knew what they were. You know, we followed my dad to practices and games and interacted with student athletes and coaches and did all of that. We heard him on the phone late at night talking to people on the East Coast, West Coast, whatever that might look like, getting their stories so he could write them and tell them. And I think as I look back on my career and on just my life in general, like he was a massive pillar in building who I am. And I always thought that he was like the coolest guy in the world, and he was like literally my best friend and a hero status to me. And since he's passed away, just the stories and things that we've heard about how he influenced other people. I think when I go back to that maturing and growing up kind of thing, a lot of that has happened since we lost him, because I want that impact whenever I leave. I want people to remember the person that I am and the way that they felt when they were around me. And I think my dad was able to do that through writing in a newspaper, through connecting with people and telling their story. And I admired everything about him, and I continue to this day. But I'd like to think he was super proud of me. I think he would be proud of what my brother and my sister and my nieces and nephew and what they're doing in their lives too. Because family was always super important to him, and he instilled that in all of us as well. So, I really, when we won at the conference tournament, I got choked up for a second because I would have given anything to look up in the stands and see him there. My mom has been phenomenal, supporting every way that she can and making the trips and being in the stands and trying to do all of that. But there's always that piece that's missing. So I'd like to think that he was super proud of who I am and what I've become and the lessons that I've learned. So I know that he saw the game. I know he had a great seat.
There's 7 players from Nebraska on the USD roster. They're all from Omaha or Lincoln or points in between. That's a 1-hour radius from Lincoln. Did you have a hand in all of them? Is that your turf?
The crazy thing is that I think 5 of the 7 or 4 of the 7, I actually really tried to get really hard at Sioux Falls when I was the head coach there, and they all told me no, and they came here. And so it's the way that the world works is just insane, because it ended up that I got to coach them and be a part of their lives. But what a cool story for those kids. Like Piper Rule, I don't think stopped smiling from the moment they announced we were going to Nebraska until the day that we got there for practice. She was just like beaming, and that was a cool homecoming experience for those kids.
Yeah, you just started to answer my next question. What was the reaction? First of all, did you have a sense you might draw Nebraska because you're one of the 3 teams in the field with a below 500 record? They're one of the top 4 seeds. But then what was the reaction when you did draw Nebraska? Because this, like every NCAA tournament, every sport now has its own selection show. It has a presentational, dramatic feel. What was the reaction when you saw your name with Nebraska?
Yeah.
And the players,
the girls,
particularly the in-staters,
they were stoked. Yeah. They, I think we all had an idea, kind of like you just alluded to. We were one of the bottom teams, RPI in the field, all of it, and they were one of the very tops. And in the NCAA's mind, with regionality and expenses, that really made sense. So you saw Nebraska go up first, and the girls were just like, they were on the edge of their seats. Some of them stood up right away. And then you saw our paw print go up on the screen, and it just, they've had a lot of exciting moments over the last couple of weeks, but that is something that I think is a core memory for especially those Nebraska kids that, some of them got to play in their senior all-star game in that stadium. Some of them have been there for camps, or they've done that. And now they get to go back in front of all of their family and friends who have supported them and encouraged them over the years. And they get to show this team to them. And I think that's where that excitement came from.
To Fargo and Hot Mike with Dom Izzo, where even though the team they mainly cover and talk about, North Dakota State, on to the FBS, they still love talking FCS, and the season is never too far away.
We start our Mondays with our guy Sam Herder from Hero Sports to join us. I mentioned off the top of the show, we are officially at that week where Thursday we are 100 days out from week 0 and the start of the college football season. So we officially will get plenty of hate mail and tweets telling us not to wish away the summer, but officially the countdown is on, Sam, come Thursday morning.
Yeah, we on with the FCS season starting that Thursday of week 0, we hit the 100-day mark a bit sooner for the FCS. The countdown, the jersey countdown begins this week, where best returning number 99, 98, 97, all the way down to number 0. And I think this is year 8 or 9 of me doing it. So it's fun to kind of, it's a different way to highlight the top returning players. There are some numbers like 58 is like usually not a very popular number, or like 61 is usually not a very popular number. So some of those numbers I have to dig a little bit more, but like 21, there's like 20 different options for a popular number like that one.
What is the criteria on how you go about selecting said player?
Yeah, it is. So I build out the database, and it's pretty much every returning all-conference player from last year. Then I also plug in all-conference players from 2024 as well, just in case, like Charles Pierre Jr., for example. You don't want to forget about a guy like him who was really good in 24, but he missed all of last year. So you plug in some guys that maybe got hurt last season. There was, production, PFF grades, All-American accolades. Like if you're a Buck Buchanan Award finalist, freshman All-American, FCS All-American. So you kind of put together a big database of all of these top returning players. And then from there, you kind of just go number by number and kind of just try to figure out, who has the best resume, who's the best player. Some of them are very, very close. So you try to distinguish, who the top players are with all of these numbers. So it's a very fun project. It takes a lot of time. It's always funny. I base the numbers off of last season.
Oh.
Because rosters get changed sporadically all the time. Like I might honor a guy at number 97 and then in mid-July, he changed his number to number 8.
Correct.
So I was like, all right, I'm just going to stick with last year's roster numbers or else all the numbers kind of get jumbled around if I don't.
What's the feedback you get on this? I'm assuming you probably get some that are like, hey, where's our guy, right?
Yeah, a decent amount, sometimes in DMs or sometimes I'll get emails. People somehow find my email and, hey, consider this guy for number 87 or something like that. So there's can be some coaches or even some parents that, start petitioning for their guy at certain numbers. I try to work ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes some social media departments will ask me like, hey, what guys on our team are going to get honored just so we can get some graphics ready. But I usually only work like 10 numbers ahead just because, sometimes it can take a while to for each of these numbers.
This is a rather busy week in the NCAA. They always have different councils, but the D1 cabinet is meeting this week, not about NDSU's waiver. This is about the 5-for-5 proposal, which we've talked about, and we thought this might be off, years down the road. This sounds like it is a freight train happening for this fall. I'm really interested to see how that affects for football rosters going forward, what that means for guys that thought, well, hey, I've played 3 years. Now I didn't redshirt. I might have another year of eligibility. I may not spend it at said school. That's going to change everything. And this sounds like it's going to happen before the football season.
Yeah, there's really good momentum behind it. And I think it makes a lot of sense. The only thing that gives me pause is like right now things can get messy with like the medical red shirts and all that. But like if a guy is on year 5, he's a 5th year senior and he tears his ACL in week 2, like his college career is just done. Mm-hmm. Where now it's like, okay, sometimes you can get that medical red shirt and you can come back for another year. But so like that scenario would be like very unfortunate, but overall it just makes sense because there are so many red shirts and hardships. And, just a few weeks ago, we found out that the Connors brothers from UC Davis were being able to come back. And right now, Villanova starting quarterback, Pat McQuaid, he's looking for an extra year of eligibility. And I reached out to Villanova's head coach earlier, this weekend because I'm doing the Villanova preview right now. I'm like, hey, like, what's the status of Pat? Like, can he come back? And, they said they're still waiting to hear back. And so we're 100 days away from the season and they don't know if their starting quarterback is going to get that extra year of eligibility or not. So going back to the 5-and-5, it's a lot more transparent. Like you get 5 years to play, 5 seasons, as many games as you want. So you don't have to worry about the 4-game redshirt rule as freshmen. Like that's out the window as well. So I do think it makes sense. I'm sure there could be lawsuits as always, like a guy that played 4 years, in four seasons in 4 years that says, hey, I didn't get a 5th year. We'll see, how that lands in court. But yeah, there is strong momentum behind this.
The intriguing part of it, how they're going to work with the existing players underneath this to add up what gives you the most eligibility. Like for players that have redshirted, I don't believe they're going to get that year back. I look at guys that have played, like an Eli Gilman played right away, that he would get another year under this for Montana, or if he wants to use it somewhere else in 2027, that's a big boon if you're trying to figure out a roster. We may have this guy for another year.
Yeah, and I think that's why maybe it seemed like this was going to be, kind of take a while to fully kind of move in, but it sounds like maybe part of the momentum behind it is because there needs to be some clarity, moving forward as far as roster construction. And I think like the players that have already exhausted their eligibility, maybe they played 4 years or 4 seasons in 4 years. It sounds like those players would not be grandfathered into this, but players that have eligibility remaining right now, they could maybe, like you said, get added 1 more year at the end of it, just, based off of when this, finally goes through.
And that just changes everything for even right now for coaches that are out recruiting on the FCS side of things to say, oh, well, I don't know how many spots we have because we may have our best running back, wide receiver, defensive lineman decide, hey, we played him. They have another year. We're certainly not going to close the door on him.
Yeah, and especially with the house settlements, and you have you're kind of slowly working your way down to 105 players, and you have what do they call, like the designated student athletes, something like that, where they don't go toward the 105 limit. And there is, kind of speaking on that, there is other FCS teams that have opted into the house settlement starting this year where they didn't last year. So they missed their opportunity to kind of grandfather in those roster spots. So some of these schools have to cut down to 105 right away if they're opting in a year later. So yeah, it's all this roster management stuff with the transfer portal and how many years of eligibility and cutting down roster spots. It gets very complicated. Then from the FCS perspective too, you have partial scholarships as well. And some conferences have scholarship caps. Other conferences don't. So you can go above 63 scholarships in some conferences. It's just, it's a wacky time right now when it comes to all of these different things.
We talked on the house settlement, seemed like every week last summer on what teams were going to do and what weren't. I'm really intrigued on the FCS teams that now you mentioned that are opting in, why they did it a year later. And now they're up against it. Like you mentioned, they have to be at 105. There's no grandfather those guys in because they didn't do it right away, of what their thought process was when they saw it. Oh, we financially can make this work. But now you're in a bind where you got to cut guys.
Yeah, I want to say notable teams like UC Davis and I believe Idaho as well opted out last year, and now they're opting in this year. And like you said, because we talked about it all last offseason, where some schools said, well, we're not going to opt in right away, but we might give it a couple of years and then opt in just to see how everything shakes out. But I kept on saying that didn't make sense because you only have this one window to grandfather in those roster spots. So yeah, for these teams that are opting in this year that did not last year, they missed that opportunity. Now they have to, hit those roster limits, right away. They don't have an opportunity to grandfather players in. Now, some of these rosters were already at, the limits. Some schools don't carry 120 football players. Maybe they're already at 107. So, kind of naturally you lose those 2 guys anyways due to graduation. So for some programs, that's not a big deal. But for others, it maybe would have made more sense to opt in right away instead of waiting 1 year.
Craig Haley sent me this stat. 7 playoff teams from a year ago have new head coaches this coming fall. Drake, Lehigh, Mercer, Montana, obviously, New Hampshire, South Dakota, and Yale. Always hard to anticipate what kind of success that is with a new coach, but that's a high percent. That's 7 of the 24 that are going to have new coaches coming back this season.
Yeah, and some notable teams as well. Obviously Montana, that one jumps off the page right away, just with the whole storyline of Bobby Hauck retiring and then coming out of retirement within a week. Correct. And you have South Dakota as well, who had so much stability at the top with Coach Nielsen, and now they've had 2 new head coaches in 2 years. Now they've promoted from within, and so there's some stability there. Maybe the most under the radar one is Yale, where they take Kevin Cahill from Lehigh, who was the FCS Coach of the Year last year, who really helped Lehigh rise up. He goes over to Yale, so I think that was a really good head coaching hire right there. So yeah, there's a decent amount of like FCS to FCS moves, like West Georgia's head coach moved to Mercer, and then I think West Georgia, they took Presbyterian's head coach. It was kind of plucking from each other. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting coaching carousel this year.
I had an email to ask you, did you see what happened with Mercer's football schedule last week? Mercer announced its football schedule late last week with a week 0 game, but no opponent. I've never seen that before. Like they're going to play week 0, but they said the opponent will be released later this month. Do you know who this is? I don't know who this is going to be.
I think it might be a Southland opponent. I don't know for sure. I wonder if they're still working through the details and the game contract. I know, like, the FCS kickoff is still kind of an unknown. Like, it's moving out of Montgomery, but I know as part of the Southland's media deal, ESPN will broadcast a week 0 game like 3 times in the next 7 years. Now, if Mercer is playing a Southland opponent, would that be at the Southland team's, home arena? Maybe that gets on ESPN. I'm not sure, but it was interesting to see that they released their schedule. Maybe they were just having impatient fans like, hey, where's our schedule? And then Mercer said, well, we'll release it, but we're still working on the game contract for week 0. I believe it is a Southland opponent, but I don't know that 100% for sure.
And the game is in Macon, so it's at home. I guess to your point, we know the games. We're playing at home, so we're going to play this date. But that makes sense. I've never seen that before, to release a schedule, but the opponent is TBD. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think there is still some decent FCS teams with week 0 openings. So I talked on the show last week about how the week 0 slate, there's like 7 or 8 like good games from an FCS perspective that I go, okay, that's pretty intriguing, but there's not like a like a top tier matchup that would be great for national television. So that was a bit unfortunate from week 0 scheduling, but maybe Mercer can kind of, because they do have a pretty good home environment. Maybe they can land a good opponent there.
Who knows? Maybe that'll move up the leaderboard if whoever they get. We have some news to share. People that follow you certainly on social media know that you and your lovely wife are expecting. This is going to be your last appearance with us for a bit. First off, welcome to the greatest club in the world. Being a dad is the best thing ever. Tell us about, excited, what's due date, all the good stuff. What do we got coming here?
Yeah, baby girl is due June 1st. We'll see if she makes the appearance at the end of May or June, early June. But we're kind of at that time where, in any one of these weeks. So last appearance on the show for the time being. I'll take a good chunk of the summer off with parental leave, but I'll still be somewhat active on social media. Don't want to go totally silent there. And I'll keep the jersey countdown going as much as I can. That's a daily thing, but we're very excited. First baby for us. So it'll be different for sure. But we're very excited about it.
Well, cherish the sleep you get between now and whenever baby comes. I'll tell you, I'm sure you've heard that from 1,000 people, but I heard the same thing, and they were all right. Everybody was exactly right about it. So congratulations, you and your wife, bud. Enjoy it, and we'll catch up down the road once we get closer to the start of the season, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good, bud. There he goes. Congratulations, my man. Sam Herder joining us. He and his wife are expecting, as he mentioned, a baby girl. Fantastic. And wish him well and enjoy it. It's all I'll say is just that first month is just a blur. I remember the day that Jackson was born. After that, it was a blur coming back to work a month later. Just crazy, but happy for Sam.
To Rapid City and Nate Brown, where we go to a town in the Midwest, far away from here, that always seems to take center stage about this time of year.
I was told that's the Indy 500 theme song. The Nate Brown Show is live. We're going to Indianapolis. Scott Agnes is on tonight, South Dakota Sports Talk Show. He's at the center of the Indy 500. He covers the Fever, the NBA, the WNBA Fieldhouse Files. Scott, welcome back on in South Dakota. How are you?
Appreciate it. Doing well. Yeah, it's the center of the sports universe right now between the 500. Pacers last week were trying to figure out if they'd get a top 4 pick. They do not. And now, of course, Caitlin Clark, who is the most popular female athlete in the world.
Okay, so you tell me, you've been in Indianapolis. I've talked to you about the Indy 500. But how big is it that Caitlin Clark is the grand marshal, is going to be there announcing drivers to their cars? How big is that deal?
Yeah, it's significant, mostly for the race more than anything, right? Because anything Caitlin's involved in, people are going to watch. And, Nate, I had people on my reaction video that I did immediately go, hey, look, I've never watched the race. I will now. That changes.
Wow.
And that kind of speaks to the WNBA, right? For better or worse, there was a lot of people that didn't give it a chance that had never watched. Caitlin entered the league, and they gave it a chance and are hooked on this Indiana Fever team. So for Caitlin, look, this is part of her partnership with Gamebridge. They are the presenting sponsor of the race. It's also in her new backyard here, right off downtown. And I believe it's a bucket list item. It's the largest one-day sporting event in the world. We don't know official attendance numbers, but probably 350, 400,000 people, plus millions more watching at home. So it's a big deal for all parties involved, especially, I think, the Fox audience, because grandstand tickets here already sold out. You're not selling more tickets just because of her.
Okay, Caitlin Clark named the Grand Marshal of the 110th Indy 500 this weekend. Scott Agnes on tonight covers Caitlin and the Fever. Fieldhouse Files, his site. If people are going to listen to this, they're going to say, wait, people are going to watch the Indy 500 just to hear Caitlin Clark say stuff? They think you're crazy.
See, I think we have this conversation, too, about the 500 in general, because here it's revered, it's worshipped. We have our days, right? I grew up here, so I have that great affinity for it. It starts with Friday, in particular, after this past weekend of qualifications. Friday's Carb Day. They don't have carburetors anymore, but it's still called Carb Day. So many people take the day off and make it a fun day at the track. So, yeah, Caitlin's window will be about 12:29 p.m. Eastern Time coming up on Sunday. She'll say a few words at the victory podium and then probably go up to the Gamebridge suite atop the pagoda, which is the big, giant building that they'll show plenty of times with an aerial view. But this place is massive. One thing I highly encourage your audience to look up to understand is Google, like, Indianapolis Motor Speedway venues inside of it. And you can name probably the top 10 places people know, right? Whether it's the Pacers Arena, Fever Arena, and the Colts Stadium, Yankee Stadium, several others. Nate, they all fit together inside IMS. It is a massive thing. So, yeah, I think you'll have a certain percentage tune in just for Caitlin. Will they stay for the whole race? Unlikely. But for about that half an hour window, you better believe she's going to move the needle, because she is the needle.
Yeah. Now, I'm with you on it. I've said she is the needle. Now, her third season, Colin Cowherd here on Fox Sports Radio just did a segment
that was
yesterday.
Terrible. What are we doing?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about it. He did that yesterday. He said, Caitlin's got to do something now. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. He said she's got to do something and win and take the next step. You say no? What do you mean?
I say she's basically in year two. Give her a chance here. I think they won like 13 games when she came in, hadn't reached the playoff in a decade. Her first year, won over 20 games and reached the postseason. And they didn't get a home game, by the way, if you remember. Back then, before the Caitlin Clark experience, they were saving money, the league was. Why in the first round are we going to send you to both venues when usually one team dominates? Like, these are the economics that completely changed when she entered the league. And then last year, the team advanced. She didn't play, but that's a washout. We can't really judge. To me, the point here, Nate, is it is way too soon. She is just 24, basically still just got into the league. Yes, she should be judged by winning, but she's only had really one season to judge it off that, and she did that. A team that was desperate for success, she brought it, and now they have pieces around her, and so we should be looking for it. But to say, like, this year or bust, what are we doing? I thought that was moronic take, and it sounded like somebody that has no idea or has not been watching Fever basketball and all the different things they've been through and are going through.
Yeah, I get it. You cover it. Scott Agnes on from Indianapolis. Find him on X at Scott Agnes, and his website is Fieldhouse Files. Best coverage there of Caitlin Clark and the Fever as the season just got underway. So she just set a record, and nobody talks about it. I mean, you do it, but I see she set the record for the WNBA history in her third season, which, as you said, she was out last year. 12 games, 20-plus points, 10-plus assists. She's got the most games ever, and people just go, why is that?
Because I'm not even sure how many records she's already set at this point in her WNBA career. And it kind of goes back to my previous point here. To have a greater understanding of her impact, just look at everything else that she's done. You can judge her by the new collective bargaining agreement and how, get this, it's the great stat I keep going back to. The minimum contract, Nate, this season is more than the maximum contract was last year, the final year of the CBA.
Yes,
she has lifted everything. The fever valuations, went from probably $90 million, pushing $1 billion probably. Seriously, here in another year or two. Now, in particular with that stat, I think a lot of fans weren't sure what are good stats in the WNBA, right? A lot of a new audience. The other thing here that stands out to me and why, to me, I made a big deal out of it is, for one, look at the context. Number 2 on the list, Courtney Vandersloot, took her 466 games. Caitlin did it in 56 games. Basically, because last season was a wipeout, she's done it in less than a season and a half. It took her, Diana Taurasi, about 10 years to do it. There's your context. And then on top of that, what made it even more interesting to me, at least, was originally she didn't get it. Because originally the stats did not give her 10 assists. The fever in all of us were like, what are we doing here? It kind of looked like an assist. Should have 10. After league review, they updated it to 10. So it found out hours before their win on Sunday that she had gotten it, and then she did it again for the second time in a row.
Yeah. 12 games career. That's a WNBA record. 20-plus points, 10-plus assists. Caitlin Clark already has the record in the WNBA. So I look at it and I say the WNBA has elevated. You talked about the CBA. I've hit that on my show. Caitlin Clark has done all of that for the WNBA. I believe that. Does the WNBA promote Caitlin enough to your take?
I would say no, but I think in some cases, not all, in some cases, though, they want to spread the ball around just like Kate. Or what your league is, it's not good. But I think, to your point, when you're marketing a featured game over the weekend, a lot of this has been discussed. When you're doing your rookie, who right now is trying to carve out a role, play 10 minutes off the bench, you're probably missing the mark. If anything, how about Kelsey Mitchell, who's on a supermax contract? How about Aaliyah Boston, who's on a nearly a max contract? So I understand them at times wanting to distribute the ball, but in almost all cases, yeah, Caitlin, you would think they put it too much on the graphic and they would go too much the other way, right, Nate? Because you almost would think people would complain because she's out there too much, and that's not at all the case. When I remember there was a notable graphic before the postseason, I think her rookie year, and they put one player from every team, and it wasn't her. In those cases, I'm like, what are we doing? Because you want to promote the league's best. I mean, if the Lakers are doing Austin Reeves instead of LeBron James or Luka Doncic, the same things would be said.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I still don't think the WNBA promotes her enough. I don't get it. It's a phenomenon. Caitlin off to a really good start. People aren't acting like it. She's off to a really good start on the court this year. Last one for Scott Agnes, and it's an Indy 500 question. You grew up there. You know it. So what does Scott Agnes do Sunday? How do you partake in this?
Yeah, so I'm fully credentialed out there and have been for the last 10 to 12 years. So normally it would either be attend the race or be at a backyard or cook out somewhere by a pool, grilling out or that type of thing. But I will be there, and now with Caitlin there and also a couple Pacers involved as grand marshals of a big parade that happens the day before, I'm sure they will be there. So I will be there writing, covering about that, and probably hanging out in the media room as well, enjoying the nice weather either way, because last year we had some rain. This year we might as well. Hopefully it stays away, though.
Indy 500 Sunday. Scott Agnes will be there. Caitlin Clark will be there. Fieldhouse Files is his site. Scott, great to have you, man. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks, Nate.
Appreciate you. Scott Agnes on South Dakota Sports Show. Good stuff.
And we bring things back to Sioux Falls, where Zach Borg has been calling metro area high school baseball games for the last couple months. And the state baseball tournament is coming up this week. So, Zach, certainly not a rookie at putting together awesome video highlight compilations and preview stories. So enjoy.
The push for a pennant is on in the state of South Dakota, and it's almost time to crown a state champion. Welcome to this week's playoff edition of Midwest Sports Plus Diamond Vision. I'm Zach Borg. The Super Regional Playoff Series began in Class A, and in Class B, the regional tournaments are underway, all to fill out the fields for the State A tournament at Augustana University's Ronkin Field in Sioux Falls, and the State B tournament up in Brookings at Bob Sheldon Field. So without any further ado, let's take a look at some Super Regional action, starting with a very busy weekend at these Sanford Diamonds. After a 14-4 win on Friday night, O'Gorman looked to punch their ticket back to state on Saturday by finishing a sweep of 41st Street rival Roosevelt. Rylan Cody freezing a rider to stop a Roosevelt threat in the 5th. And in the top of the 6th, O'Gorman's bats go to work. Augustana-bound Bennett Duncan smashing a single to center to bring home Paxton Sohn, making it 7-1. 2 batters later, Alex McKinney goes to the opposite field, bringing in 2 more, and it's all O'Gorman as the Knights finish the sweep with a 10-1 victory to lock up a return to state. After the game, I spoke with Bennett Duncan about the victories over Roosevelt, this year's O'Gorman squad, and what it'll take to get over the top next weekend at state.
It's nice. I mean, I couldn't have done it without these boys here. The energy in the dugout, I mean, all these guys want it, all of them, and it just means a lot to me as a senior. Going from last year, we lost a lot of seniors, but we had a lot of guys come in who want it just as bad, and they're trying just as hard as everyone else, and we all have the same goal in mind.
A little more fun to clinch it against the 41st Street rival Roosevelt?
A little bit. I mean, I got a lot of buddies on this team, and it just meant a lot. I mean, of course, wish them the best, but I wanted to move ahead. I wanted to win with these boys, and we got it done.
Now, so you guys were only the 7th seed. It's been kind of an up and down season, but you're starting to get some momentum late. You got a big win at Harrisburg. What kind of describes this team? What kind of team it is right now?
Right now we're hot. Like we're hitting on all cylinders here. We're going, and I mean, as you saw, the dugout's loud. We're hitting. We're pitching. I mean, we're doing everything right now, and I don't see why we can't win state.
I was gonna say, what is it gonna take? Last year you had a pretty tough go of it in that quarterfinal. Obviously leaves a little bit of a sour taste. What do you guys got to do to finish it this year?
Got to finish the job. We got to finish games. I mean, for us, we've been, ending in the 4th, 5th inning this year, but, going in the state tournament, we need to end, when the game's over. And I think we have the guys to do it, and I believe in us.
One field over, Jefferson looking to lock up their spot at state by finishing a sweep of Spearfish after winning on Friday 11-1. Tied at 2 in the 4th, Caleb Goodroad hits a chopper that eats up the third baseman and is thrown away, allowing 2 runs to score and put the Cavaliers on top. Spartans looking to answer in the bottom of the frame with their first 2 batters reaching, only to see Everett Salonen get the strikeout and escape any damage. Jefferson wouldn't look back from there either. Noah Kinsey with an RBI single in the 5th, part of a 2-run frame. Cavaliers would score 8 more in the 6th and roll to state 14-2. Rapid City Stevens could advance to the state tournament with a win over Brookings in Game 2 of their series after a 13-9 comeback win on Friday. Stevens up 2-1 on the top of the 4th. Connor Convalin grounds out to second. That's just fine, though, because it allows Carter Brager to score and make it 3-1. 3 batters later, Liam Unterbrunner at the plate gets just enough of this one to drop it into shallow center. Trevor Schlosser coming in to score and make it 4-1. That part of a 3-for-3 day for Unterbrunner. Bottom of the 5th, the Bobcats have a runner on with 1 out. Base knock to center field. Cooper Schneider trying to score from second, but a strong throw by Caden Comparetto cuts him down at the plate. Then Brady Waddell ends the inning with one of his 9 strikeouts on the day to lead the Raiders to the state tournament with a 7-1 victory. And with that, the field is set for the 2026 SDHS-BA State A Baseball Tournament in Augustana's Ronkin Field, and you can watch every game on Midwest Sports Plus. It all starts Friday at noon with a Battle of the Green between Jefferson and Pierre. Then at 2:30, it's the 4-5 game between Yankton and Rapid City Stevens. Top seeds play the night session with number 1 Harrisburg getting Watertown at 5, followed by number 2 Brandon Valley against O'Gorman. Semifinals will be the following Saturday at 2 and 5, with the winners playing for the title at 7:30. The State B tournament will begin on Memorial Day at Bob Sheldon Field in Brookings, and you can also catch all of that action on Midwest Sports Plus. Same format with 4 quarterfinals on Monday at 11 a.m., 1, 4, and 6 p.m. Semifinals will follow Tuesday at 10 a.m. and 12:30 with the victors playing for the championship at 3. The field will be filled out over the next 2 days at regional tournaments. Be sure to visit sdhsba.com for updated results from the Class B regional tournaments, as well as that updated State B bracket when those games are final. And join us right here on Midwest Sports Plus for coverage of all 14 State A and B baseball tournament games. It all starts Friday at Ronkin Field in Sioux Falls. We'll have 4 State A quarterfinal games on Friday, followed by the semifinals and championships on Saturday. And then we'll do it all over again on Monday from Bob Shelton Field in Brookings with 4 State B quarterfinals, followed on Tuesday by the 2 semifinals and the state championship. And join me here next week as we'll have a wrap-up with highlights and reaction of the State A and B title games. With this week's Midwest Sports Plus Diamond Vision, I'm Zach Borg.
Big thanks to Zach, also to Dom Izzo of Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, and Nate Brown from The Nate Brown Show. Catch all that on the Midwest Sports Plus app and Happy Hour with John Gaskins daily at SiouxFallsLive.com. For video producer Cordell Wright, I'm John Gaskins. And a big thanks to our content director, Drew Trafton. And we'll talk next week on another South Dakota Sports Lounge.